All right, here we go. We got to know this graphing by Wednesday, but probably more like Thursday. We started on a little bit Friday. We haven't done a whole lot of it, so you guys didn't miss a whole lot. You could learn how to graph all 6 of these, but for our class, we're only going to do sine and cosine. Okay, that's the only ones we got to know how to graph. So, to start each problem, you're going to graph the parent graph, the one that's in the front. You got to know what sine x looks like. So if you were here Friday, you remember it looks like this. If you weren't here Friday, you're going to need to memorize that. So write it down and learn. Now the only graph you draw with your color is the final graph. Just one graph on each problem with a color is your final graph. That kind of helps me grade it quicker. All right, next step. We're going to use this to find your 4 answers. All right, so amplitude, 3. Period, 2 pi. Phase shift, there's not one. How do we know there's not a phase shift? No parentheses. Location change, up 2. All right, after that, you guys need to figure out how many changes do we have to make when we graph. All right, so our quiz we're going to take Thursday is going to be everything we just did on the sheet before break and 5 graphs. All right, so how many changes do we have to make? Well, let's see. There's nothing there. We don't have to change the phase shift. We don't have to change this. Why don't we have to change the period? Because look, guys, from 0 to pi, it's already set at 2 pi. We don't have to change anything there either. So when you have more than one thing you have to change, I want you to start in the back and work your way to the front. Okay? So first thing we got to change, location change, up 2. Easy one. What we're going to do is put a dotted line up 2. Everybody draw a dotted line. Up 2. Up 2, straight across, a dotted line. And you're going to move every point up 2. So I move it here, there, there. So really you're just moving the whole graph up 2. Anybody have a question what I've done? Moved everything up 2. And don't catch me saying a bad one when that happens. What's the date? 15th. All right, so first we had this one. All right, and then y'all moved everything, what was it, up 2?
Yeah.
Moved everything up 2. Just drew the same thing again. All right, what's the last change we have to make on this one? Last thing we got to fix is what? Amplitude. All right, this is the one you work on the most. It seems like every problem we have an amplitude change. When you have to change your amplitude, and our amplitude is 3, right? All right, you ready? Y'all see these 3 points that are on the dotted line? You never move those. Take your color over them. The ones on the x-axis you do not move. You move the ones that are not on the x-axis. Here's what I'm talking about. Y'all see we got to go 3. So from the x-axis, 1, 2, 3. From the x-axis, 1, 2, 3. So basically the amplitude just stretches it out.
So is that 4 or is it at 5?
You count 3 from right here, so it'll be at 5, right? 1, 2, 3 from the dotted line, 1, 2, 3 from the dotted line. That's how you do amplitude every time. The ones on the x-axis, just color over them, count the other ones.
And now we color?
Your last graph should be in your color. That's the only one I should have to grade. If it's right, everything else should be good. All right, we're good on number 1.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the next one. Number 2. Do I have another one? There it is. All right, we have a new graph this time. We'll get it. All right, cosine x. All right, so we had sine on number 1 to you. Now we got cosine, and you have to memorize this one. It looks like handlebars on a bicycle is what we said Friday. I'm going to draw it for you. Look at it and learn it. You've got to know what cosine looks like. All right, this is just something you have to memorize, Tegan. I can show you how I get it by plugging in points and doing a lot of work. We're just going to memorize it. If it's cosine, it looks like that. All right, now find your 4 answers. So let's look at our problem. Amplitude, 1, because you guys know there's a 1 there, right? Period is what? 2 pi over 1 is 2 pi. Hey, this one does have a phase shift. How do we find phase shift again? You put this on top, it's negative 3 pi over 2. Divide it by 1, that's going to stay negative 3 pi over 2. There's no location change. And what you have to do is look and see how many changes do we have to make.
3.
Y'all think we got to make 3? I think we got to make 1. All right, look, we don't have to do anything there, right? Not location change. Well, you definitely have to change that. Why don't we have to change the period? Because it's already 2 pi c. So we don't have to change that one. Why don't we have to change the amplitude? Because they're already going up 1. We don't have to change that one. So the only one we got to change is the phase shift. I think this is the easiest one to change. All we have to do, take your graph, slide it down, negative 3 pi over 2, which is way down here. Just slide it. Did I answer that right? Negative 3 pi over 2? That is right, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right, so you're going to have the same exact graph. You're just going to slide it down to here. So now get your color. Boom.
Why wouldn't you go to 2 pi?
Why wouldn't you go to 2 pi? Okay, let's talk about that. 1, 2, 3. It was already 4 spaces long. It's still going to be 4 spaces long. You're just sliding it. Sliding it back tells you to slide it back to negative 3 pi over 2. That's
Yeah,
what we
but it
did.
says-
So it's still 4 spaces longer, Caitlin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Still 4 spaces long. We haven't changed that. So we didn't change the length of it. That's probably on the next problem, which is the hardest one, I think. Are we good? Lanny, we good on these so far? All right, going to number 3. All right, number 3. Look, we're back to graphing sine x. That's the one we did on number 1. So you should have it memorized. If you don't, go back at number 1 and graph it.
Did I check it? I was about to say that ain't bothering me.
No, I like
What, that?
Check
it.
it.
I want one that stood out a little bit. All right, so there's sine x. We should have that on number 3. That's your base graph. That's where you start, sine x. All right, now, I think you guys can find the 4 answers on your own. Go. All right, let's see what you got. Amplitude, 2, period. What's the period on this one? Is there a phase shift?
No.
Location change. All right, so this time, how many changes do we have to make on this one? 2 changes. Where do we start? You always start in the back and work your way up to the front. All right, this is the hardest one, I think, guys. We got to change the period. So let's talk about this. All right. On our first graph right here, the period was 2 pi. It was 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces long. Y'all get that? They want us to change it to pi, which means 1, 2 spaces long. So we're going to take this graph, and we're going to squeeze it. So now I got to start it there and end it there, which means I'm going to have to half up basically every point. Now, how else could I have explained that? Instead of 4 spaces long, you gotta half it up to 2 spaces long. That's what we did.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we gonna have to figure out what the points are between?
I'm not gonna do that to you.
Okay.
No, we're only gonna do this. I could, and when you get to college algebra, you'll probably have them where they'll want you to know that point and that point. We're not gonna do that.
Okay, I was just making.
All right, so now, last thing we gotta do is the amplitude. We've already had an amplitude problem one time, so let's get your color. See if I can find one I like. Let's do sunshines. Get your color. Remember, keep the 3 on the x-axis. Don't change those. And for amplitude, look at your amplitude. Count up to here, count down to here, and there's your graph. Is that a little girly?
Yeah, that definitely
All right.
stands out.
We'll try something
This
else next.
reminds me of the kids when we used to draw stuff with emojis on Snapchat.
I wasn't happy with that.
Huh?
I wasn't happy with that.
Video this?
All right, question before we go to 4. All right, 4. We are back to doing cosine x. You guys look at number 2 and graph your basic cosine x graph. Handlebars on the bike, good. We go here, 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 and here. Okay, we're good. Now, find your 4 answers for our new problem. Go.
Oh,
All right, what's the new amplitude? 2. Period. 2 pi. What's the phase shift? And remember on phase shift, you flip this sign, makes it negative pi on top, divided by 1, so that's negative pi. Location change up 1. All right, this is the first time I've gave you one that you got 3 things you got to change. What's the only thing that didn't change?
Location change.
Period.
Let's see, period, 2 pi. All right, that was already 2 pi. Everything else, we got to change 3 things this time. Start from the back, work your way to the front. Now, I think y'all have seen one of all of them so far. How do we do a location change of up 1? What do we do?
go
Let's
to-
move everything up 1. Start with a dotted line. All right, so you're just moving that shape up 1. All right, how do we do a phase shift if it says negative pi? What do I do? Take the graph and do what with it? Just slide it back to negative pi. You don't shorten it or make it longer. You take the whole thing and just slide it back. Here's negative pi right here. So this point is now going to start right there. And I draw the same shape that I've had. Let me say that again too.
Maybe I just don't know how far to go.
Right here, find negative pi on your paper and go up, that's where you start. Take the first point of your graph and slide it back. And ready for the last change, amplitude. This is our 3rd time changing the amplitude. Go with something a little more manly. What we got here? Hearts? No. Football helmets. There we go. All right.
Yeah.
So these stay the same. They're on the x-axis. All right. The other ones we just got to count up to 2. 1, 2 right here. 1, 2 right here. Down 2 right here.
I don't get that.
Wow.
You don't
What-
get what?
that last part.
The amplitude. Let's do it
Yeah,
again.
oh, no.
What you're doing is timesing it by 2. Well, look, if it's on the x-axis, which is our dotted line, it's really at 0. 0 times 2 is 0. That's why these don't move. On this one, we went up 1, right? But what's 1 times 2? 2. So now go up 2. Instead of going up 1, go back to your dotted line, count up 2. Count up 2, count down 2. Now, if y'all have this in college algebra next year, they may show y'all a different way to do it.
So why did it go up 1?
Why did it only go up 1?
So.
No,
on
I
the
started
end,
from here, 1, 2.
Why wouldn't you start from?
No, you always go back to the dotted line. That's why we drew the dotted line.
And why didn't you do all of them?
Because these you don't have to move because 2 times 0 is just 0, so they don't move anyway.
Does it matter what,
Does it matter the order?
like, could I change the face shape?
That's a good question. I've never done it any other way but this way.
You've always done,
I've always done it backwards, and I forget why I started doing it that way. I think it's the easiest way. You might can still do it the other way, I'm not sure. If you're doing it the other way and getting our same answer, then
I'll just.
I think backwards always works. All right, we got one more. Number 5, y'all start off with sign X. Go. Go. Huh? 25 minutes. 24
You gotta
minutes.
start packing up at about 11.
It's about time to leave, Coach.
Come on, guys.
I think Bill's like around.
You only got 4 more weeks.
Exactly.
These are the worst
Exactly.
exactly.
It's harder and harder every class.
Be happy. Y'all gonna miss it when it's over.
Well, enjoy our presents while we're here.
All right, now write your 4 answers down. Let's see how many changes we got on this one.
I got 3 times.
All right, amplitude. What'd y'all get? 3. How about period? Phase shift. 2 pi. There is no location change. All right, so on this problem, how many changes are we going to have to make? You got to make 3. Did I mess up somewhere?
No.
3 changes. Start from the back. This one, I don't know if I gave myself enough room. I don't know if I did you guys either. First thing we got to do is a phase shift. Remember, take your graph, shift it down. So we're going to draw the exact same thing. We're just going to start it at 2 pi.
I don't have enough points.
Y'all don't have enough room? All right, I had to make a few more dots. You may have to make a few more dots. Yeah, I'm short on mine too.
It'll be all right.
It'll be fine. Good, Nipper. I like the positivity. All right, so phase shift should be the easiest one to change, though. You just slide it down. Slide it right. All right, what's the next thing we got to change? I think this is the hardest one to change, the period. All right, let's see if I can do this without messing it up. A normal period is how long? 2 pi,
4.
which is 4 spaces, right? Now they want us to shrink it down to 1 pi. How many spaces is 1 pi? 2 spaces. So we got to start it here. Let me get another color. We got to start it here, 1, 2, and end it here. 2 spaces. So again, I'm going to half everything up to get it in this smaller space. There you go. Just squeezed it in.